Rob, I am here sitting in my office in North Carolina, breaking one of, I guess, the cardinal rules of podcasting, because you know what? Rules are meant to be broken.
Go on.
Well, I am sitting here listening to myself as we record on headphones, but the headphones are Apple EarPods. They're like $15 headphones because my good quality ones broke, and I didn't feel like wearing the hot, big, bulky ones. And I actually used these EarPods the other day on a couple of other shows last week. And you know what? They're totally fine. There's not that much bleed. I just make sure the volume's not turned up really high, and it's totally okay.
Do you know what?
What?
That's a really good idea, because I am sat here with my big stupid headphones on my head thinking it's quite warm. So maybe I should dig around in my drawers and see if I've got some EarPods knocking about, because I don't have the volume that loud either. So like, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any bleed.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We should call this episode "Rob Digs Around in His Drawers." I think that's a good title.
You're fishing for titles during the show, are you?
Yes, I am. Well, we actually have topics today, of course. Good topics. And you have been on a tear because you have all kinds of topics listed here. We don't have any snacks for the folks today. It's been a snack-free zone. I think that the tariffs have halted all snack food into the United States of America. That's actually a lie. It's not true, but I haven't bought any snacks recently, so I don't have any new kettle chips or anything to share with people, but I'll be on the lookout.
I do actually have two beverages in my fridge ready to test. So one is the cream soda Dr. Pepper.
Oh, yes.
As made famous by Mac Stories.
Yes. None other than Mr. Christopher Lawley.
Absolutely, Mr. Pepper himself.
He's the good doctor. We call him the good doctor around Mac Stories.
Absolutely. And I also have a bottle of Pepsi Max strawberries and cream, which I have not tried yet. So, no, it's new in the last couple of weeks. I managed to pick some up, but I haven't tried it yet. So, next episode, I think we'll probably get to those. So the snacks are coming, don't worry.
I have a strawberry lime kombucha in my fridge. I was at the store the other day, and I saw it, and I thought of Federico, who talked about kombucha on Mac Stories Unwind a few weeks ago. And I thought, I should try this. I haven't had it yet, so we're in that. We've both got drinks in the fridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about this truck.
Yeah,
this new electric truck. And I mean, I'll start by saying, like, I'm British. I don't care about trucks. We do not care about trucks.
I don't either.
We don't want them. We don't need them.
I'm un-American in that way.
But this is, so they're claiming around $25,000, depending on some subsidies and things like that. So we call it $25,000, which is pretty cheap for an electric car. In this case, it's a pickup. And they're doing some really interesting things. So the whole body, like all of the outer body panels are, I think they're all just plastic. They said somewhere they're doing, was it like vacuum plastic or something like that?
Injection molded plastic, I think. Is that right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny. I just listened to the Vergecast this morning, and they had a whole long segment talking about this truck. So I know I'm up to speed.
Yeah, I did read the article, but this was like a week ago now, so I've forgotten everything at this point. And there's no entertainment system. There's no electric windows. It's like a pretty bare bones. Like, if you give us $25,000, we will give you an electric truck, and that's it.
Yeah,
like there's nothing special. They have one model, and that's it. Having said that, you can also buy like add-ons, basically. You buy DLC for your car, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, you can add additional seats, you can add there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're offering, but the way they're keeping the cost down is they just have this one model. There's no different paint versions. There's anything that varies from this base model is a completely separate add-on that doesn't come out of the same factory.
Right, right. Yeah, it's very interesting. I was listening to the Vergecast about this morning as we record this, and I guess the injection molding makes it a lot cheaper just in terms of the materials and the complexity of making the different components. Everything is just colored plastic, so there's no like paint on it, basically, I guess. And it doesn't even have like a stereo. It doesn't have like a radio or, your typical entertainment console in the center of a car. And it's meant, with the U.S. subsidies, if they stick around, to be around $20,000. And I found it really compelling too, not because I'm interested in a truck, but because the problem with electric vehicles, at least in the U.S., is that they're incredibly expensive. I think I read that the average one is around $60,000 or something, because they tend to come as a default with lots of bells and whistles on them, and they're and high end and expensive. Now, this thing, from what I understand, doesn't have a huge amount of range. I think it was like 150 to 200 miles or something like that, although there's a bigger battery option you can get. But, if for somebody who wants something that would be useful for just hauling stuff around and doesn't need the extra seats, although there's also an option to kind of turn it into a little SUV, then it seems like a pretty nice option at that price, especially as an around town kind of car, not a long distance travel type of thing. I would love this if it was more of just a small sedan or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, I can see why they've gone for the truck, because it gives them that modularity, so they can just stick with 2 seats as the default model. I think for me, because I don't care about cars that much.
I don't
like.
either.
There's a few cars that I like, but they're a utility. They serve a purpose for the most part. And this is, like you say, this is way more interesting than paying, as you say, 60,000. I haven't really looked much at what the UK prices are like for electric vehicles, but this is way more interesting to me, because it's a car. You're just getting a car. That's it.
Yep.
There's nothing special about this. Somebody's going to put an iPod Hi-Fi in the front of one of these, right?
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, and it's leaning into kind of a DIY maker kind of thing, where they expect people will be doing 3D printed parts for it, and it's meant to be self-serviceable for simple things like replacing a side mirror or something like that. They are adapting it to make it easy to put on vinyl wraps, which is a thing with trucks, especially if you want to give it a different look, because that, I guess, you can just stick it onto the plastic or whatever. I think it's a good idea. I mean, it remains to be seen. The one thing that I think they debated on the Vergecast, which I thought was an interesting thought experiment, was, is this the iPhone SE of trucks or cars? Because people say they want something simpler or smaller, but when it comes down to the point of actually buying something, what they really end up buying is bigger and fancier. And especially in the United States, trucks aren't getting smaller. Trucks are getting bigger. I mean, the trucks I see, especially now living in the South, the trucks I see are just monstrously large. I actually, when we moved from the apartment we rented for a while to our new condo, I borrowed a truck from our realtor that was one of those trucks, and it was terrifying to drive because I've never driven something so big. It was as wide as the lane on the highway. I felt like if I moved over 1 inch, I was in somebody else's lane. It was just the biggest thing ever, and I didn't like it. But
there was this was being discussed in I think it was in the Relay. It must have been the Relay Discord, and somebody mentioned Stephen Hackett's truck. So I did the size comparison on the website Car Sized, where we literally put the 2 cars next to each other, and even our quote unquote big family car that we have, we just get flattened by Stephen's truck, and that's not even the biggest truck you can get.
No, his truck is a good sized truck, but it's not like one of these giant ones. And the giant ones are the ones that I see around here a lot.
Oh yeah, Yeah, it's. I mean, this is not a problem in the UK because you literally would not be able to drive most of those here.
Yeah, no, you just wouldn't have room on a lot of the roads, and that. Yeah, I mean, the thing about these, they're dangerous because they're both heavy, and like they could be. A kid could stand in front of one of these trucks, the big trucks in the U.S., and you just wouldn't even see them because they wouldn't be tall enough to be over the hood.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even see my car in front of some of these trucks.
Not even like
a kid.
Right, not even like a little kid, but like maybe, I don't know, a kid in sixth grade or something. You know what I mean? It's like maybe a 10-year-old you still couldn't see in front of this truck. But yeah, I think it's a neat idea. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm a little skeptical about whether people really want that. I would be more into it myself if it was a sedan, as I said, and I would definitely put in some sort of entertainment system of some kind. I want to have at least, I mean, you at worst you could just use your phone like it was the entertainment system screen, but it tends to be a little nicer to have something a little bigger than that with CarPlay or Android Auto or something like that, where it's designed more for use while you're driving.
Oh, I mean, but those third-party CarPlay / Android Auto head units are really not very expensive at all.
Right.
So it's not as though you're going to buy this and then go, oh, I want this entertainment system, and you've got to spend another, say, $5,000. Like, you can get these for $100, $150.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there'll be presumably some kind of 3D mount that somebody's going to make. Like it, I think it's interesting that we're seeing these new companies pop up because it's electric cars now.
Yeah.
I think these are inherently easier to pick up and make an engine. Right. Is one thing, but to do it, electric vehicles it's a lot more straightforward as to what's happening.
Right, there's a lot fewer moving parts. It's less mechanical.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what happens with this. Obviously, it's America only right now anyway, so it wouldn't be something I'd be buying.
Yeah, and it's not projected to be available until sometime next year, I think, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'd be up for a $20,000 any kind of vehicle. I mean, I think cars are way too expensive. To me, they're just a money pit. I use them for one thing, getting from point A to point B. So,
yeah. I put this in the notes because you're a man who has a lot of Macs.
Yes.
You've got your Mac Mini. You've got review units. You've got your personal Macs. Like these are being switched out and things like that. And as we spoke about last episode, I've just got a new MacBook Air, which, keep in mind, that was 2 weeks ago. I'm still not using it properly because I'm still setting it up.
I know how it is. I'm actually, I have 5 Macs in my house right now.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'll start with you because you do this you're switching Macs way more than I am, say, over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? So you say you get a brand new, Apple sends you a MacBook, or you buy yourself one. Like, where's all your data? Where's all your stuff coming from? Like, how are you setting these up? Because it's difficult. It's not as nice as it is on an iPhone, where you just go, restore from iCloud, and you basically wouldn't notice the difference.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last 2 review units I got are a good example because I still have those here. One's an M4 Pro Mac Mini, and the other is a M4 Max MacBook Pro. And with the MacBook Pro, I happen to have a MacBook Air, so I use that to migrate everything on the Air to the MacBook Pro. So not everything gets set up properly that way, but it gets you fairly far along. And it was just an easy migration because I knew that Air there wasn't as much on it, and it would be easier to do. So I did that, and I was up and running a lot faster with the MacBook Pro, going that route and using a Thunderbolt cable in order to move the data over as quickly as possible. Still took a long time, but it wasn't too bad. With the Mac Mini, though, I set it up from scratch, fresh, as though I had never owned a Mac. And I like doing that kind of from time to time, only because I think Macs more than any other device. I mean, it's a computer. There's so much cruft, especially when you're like me and you test a lot of apps. and stuff. My desktop Mac Studio is just full of junk, and I'm constantly trying to fight against it. But, you end up with all kinds of weird orphaned little files all over your computer and stuff like that. And so, like, if I replace my desktop Mac next time, I would probably start from fresh, even though it's an incredibly painful process, because not only are you installing all the apps and moving the data over and all that stuff, you have to get all the settings that you're accustomed to. And basically, my current approach between the Macs that I use the most kind of day to day are my Mac Studio at my desk and the MacBook Pro. Those are the two that I use the most. And then after that, I use the Mac Mini here and there. And I don't really try to keep them in sync in any kind of meaningful way, except for when something is missing or different on one of them and it rubs me the wrong way and I notice it, then I take care of it. And I kind of slowly but surely get them into a state where they're kind of all similar. But because some are laptops and some are desktops and all that stuff, there are reasons why there should be differences, because I don't use the same peripherals with all of them. Like, I don't have anything like a Stream Deck or anything like that attached to a laptop. So I kind of need to have a little bit different approach there anyhow. And so I just start with obviously signing into all the Apple stuff, because I do have a fair amount in iCloud for storage. But I also, I'm migrating myself from Dropbox over to Google Drive right now. And so I turn those on, and that takes care of most of my work documents. I keep most everything in one of those two spots. And then everything else, most of the local stuff is mostly junk. I mean, it's mostly things in my download folders, which get huge because I don't really spend a lot of time managing that information, except for when I have a lot of big files in there. I'll delete them from time to time. Or I always keep a folder of screenshots, which I save to a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder so that they're available wherever I happen to be. And I clear that out pretty frequently. But yeah, I log into those cloud storage providers, and then I get my core apps, whatever those are. And there are quite a few of them now, but it's like all the stuff I do for writing and podcast production and Raycast and other types of apps like that. But I don't really try super hard to keep them in sync, other than they kind of naturally tend towards that over time.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, because you've got, like you say, desktops and portable MacBooks or Macs, whatever you've got.
Right.
Yeah, they're not going to be the same. Yeah. I guess the trouble I've had this time is I'm moving from a machine that I was doing both my work, my day job, and my own stuff on.
Mm.
So I didn't want to do a migration because there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's specific to my job. So I don't need that stuff on.
Right.
So I've been doing this, and I'm sat here. I'm airdropping things between. I'm doing being able to use the mouse and keyboard between the two Macs has been so handy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, everything just kind of takes a while. I as you say, I guess if you do a migration from a machine that you're happy with, then it kind of works. And I do have some scripts and things that, in theory, I can put on the new machine, run, and it would install a whole bunch of stuff and set things up. The problem I have, and I've probably been doing this for maybe 10 years, I've had these scripts available. Every time I go to use them on a new computer, something doesn't work, and I end up having to do a bunch of it manually anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It does work to some extent, and it's kind of fine because I guess I don't switch computers that often.
Yeah.
So it's not a major problem, but it's just one of those things where it's I've put this effort into setting up these scripts and things like that, and then they just never work exactly how I want them to anyway.
Yeah, I assume too you have a lot of developer tools, like a lot of command line utilities that are a little bit harder to figure out what's missing and that kind of stuff until you run into a roadblock.
Yeah, so in theory, that's what the scripts should set up.
Yeah.
So they should install all those scripts.
Have
but
you ever tried?
It doesn't always work like that.
Have you ever tried an app like Quark? Have you ever tried that app that does like Homebrew? Do you use Homebrew at all for that stuff?
Yes. Yeah, I do use Homebrew.
I don't know if Quark syncs between Macs. I actually don't know whether that's the case or not. But I have found that it's a very handy tool just to kind of like maintain command line utilities, like updating them and keeping everything, ship shape. I don't know. I'd look at see whether there's a synchronization feature in there that you could maybe migrate a whole list of utilities from one to the other. The one where it was the hardest for me was this Mac Mini that Apple sent, because it's a pretty powerful one. It's M4 Pro, but it only has 1 terabyte of storage in it. And I don't have any other Macs that have that little amount, that small amount of storage on them. So I couldn't migrate anything over in any kind of meaningful way. So that's why I did that one from scratch, and have only been putting on it the stuff that I need as I need it, like writing tools and a few other apps. It's a much smaller subset of what I normally use.
Yeah, I've tried to document. I feel like I do this every time I get a Mac.
I do too. But
I go, I've got to write down all the things that I did and the order I did them, and I know what's going to happen. The next time I get a Mac in 3, 4, 5 years, I'll be sitting here. We'll be having the exact same conversation where I'm fiddling about and I'm getting 1Password on there and Raycast. Like, I feel like that's where it really hit me, was like how much I rely on 1Password, iCloud Drive, and Raycast to do kind of anything.
Right.
So if you hand me a brand new Mac that doesn't have anything installed on it, it's like I can't do anything.
Yeah,
like,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. And what's hard about some of that stuff too, like Raycast, is that it's not just a matter of getting it installed. You have to kind of figure out what are the plugins I've been using. Now, if you pay for Raycast, it'll sync over. But if you don't, then you're kind of stuck doing that manually.
Oh. Well, no, here's a hot tip for you.
What?
Yes, you can't do sync, but you can export all of your settings from Raycast as a file and drop it onto the new computer and just open it in Raycast.
Oh, that's good to know. I've been I started subscribing this year, and I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it because I don't use Raycast for a lot of the stuff that's paid. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like a lot of people are using Raycast as a one-stop shop for like AI tools, which I think is a good solution if you only want to pay once. But they have like the paid tier gets certain models, which are not the top tier models. And then if you pay even more, then you get kind of the top tier models. And I kind of don't like that personally. I'd rather have the models available as a subscriber directly to the companies where, I've got oftentimes, if you like subscribe directly to something like ChatGPT or Gemini, you have more tools at your disposal. There'll be features that are available in the chatbots that aren't available in Raycast, or they'll be, you'll subscribe to the API and use the API and a bunch of other tools. So I don't know. I haven't really found Raycast to be a good entry point into AI stuff, but that's mostly because I'm trying out a lot of different things all the time. It's kind of like, it's kind of like testing out automations, and I don't want to have one hand tied behind my back.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I haven't looked at their paid option because I just haven't really felt that there's nothing there that I really need.
Yeah.
I guess the syncing would have saved me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But while you were talking, I did check, and I feel like this is sometimes the trouble with Raycast is everything is hidden as a command that you have to know to search for.
Yes, I was talking to Federico about this recently. I said they have a real discoverability problem because I don't use it enough, and I'm convinced it's because I don't go poking around in the commands enough.
Yeah, but if you type, and I'm just going to do it now to confirm, if you type export, there is an option and it says export settings and data, and it gives you a single, .raycast file or something. And I was able to drop that on my new Mac, and it, as far as I can tell, it did everything. Like, I've not had to set anything up.
It looks like...
obviously, that doesn't...
I was going to say, it looks like Quark works the same way, where you export stuff. You know what I mean? You do.
Yeah.
They have a backup system.
Which I guess works fine for somebody like me. I have one Mac.
Right.
Essentially. I mean, I know I have a work one, but whatever. But I have one Mac. Like, it's not a solution. You know, if I was genuinely using like 2 or 3 Macs all the time, I probably would pay for Raycast Sync, because it would annoy me having to set that stuff up otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think there's a good solution. I think it really depends, and that's why, like, I was kind of glad that both of these new Macs that I'm testing showed up at the same time, because it gave me an opportunity to go and test out starting them up in 2 different ways. And it's true, doing the fresh start with the Mini definitely took a lot longer and made me use it less initially, because every time I thought to start it up, it was like, oh, you know, because I knew I would run into roadblocks the minute I started up that computer. And if I was busy and had something I had to get done, that was not the Mac I would grab. Instead, I would grab the MacBook Pro, and it already had, I started out right away with everything that was on the Air, and that was more than enough. And over time, I've added new tools to it as I've explored things. But even now, I think the thing that's hardest for me having multiple Macs is that I oftentimes will be noodling around on the MacBook Pro on the couch, and I'll be messing around with setting up like some global hotkeys or something in some app, and then they don't sync over to the other versions, and I'll go to my other Mac and I'll try it and it doesn't work. Getting that stuff right and getting it consistent is sometimes really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, it's occurred to me even now, you know, we're using Audio Hijack. I haven't installed that on the new Mac yet.
Right.
So, you know, I've just written that down on my list, which is, you know, literally just a whole page of stuff that I still, you know, I'm working through it. I'm like, because it's not just install it, it's then I've got to make sure that I've got all the settings in there and everything's set up.
Right.
So that next time we do record, you know, because I was expecting to record on the new one today, but it just hasn't got, I didn't have it set up in time.
Right.
You know, and it's important to get these things right, because otherwise we lose a recording or we can't release the episode. Like, you know, it's fairly important to get these things right.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. It is a process, that's for sure. I don't know. I feel like I live in a state of constant computing flux, because I'm always testing something and I'm always messing up my devices with some sort of half-broken beta apps, and it's like I just kind of roll with it these days, Rob.
Yeah. Well, let's squeeze in one more little mini topic here,
sure.
Because, well, firstly, you have released an entire episode about this of MPC, but did you manage to pre-order a Switch?
I did, and it actually wasn't ordered by me. It was ordered by one of my kids, because I went to bed. I guess it was Wednesday night, set an alarm, got up bleary-eyed to go order my Switch at midnight, and I had all kinds of trouble. It was really kind of a nightmare. I was moving between Walmart, Target, and Best Buy, back and forth between apps and between Safari tabs. And I pretty quickly got one into a cart on Target, but wasn't able to ever check out. And then Best Buy was pretty much dead until, turns out Best Buy really didn't open up their doors until like 12:30. And then a lot of people got through that way. But my son got in both his, he ordered one from Target, but he was still in the queue for Walmart. And so he asked me if he wanted if I wanted him to get it for him, and I did, for me. I can't even speak right, but yeah,
I got you.
He and me, and anyway, yeah, he got me one from Walmart and to my address, which is good, and I paid him back. So I'm all set.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm all set already, which is good, but it was a bad experience. I stayed up for a while afterwards. I was able to get into a queue at Best Buy eventually, and I had that moment where I was like, maybe I should get a second one and sell it to defray the costs of the first one. But then I thought, no, I gotta that's bad karma. I'll let somebody who's just out there trying to buy one get theirs, and so I closed the tab and I went back to bed. And I was in the NPC Discord, which is part of the TWG family of podcast Discords, and it looked like most of the people who were trying that night eventually got them. Some people had more trouble than others, and it took a long time. For some people were trying for like an hour plus, which I remember the days when this was a thing with trying to either get a ticket to WWDC or get an iPhone. And it was very similar to the iPhone experience, the early days iPhone experience, except that it was spread across more tabs because you had more retailers. And Apple got their act together fairly quickly. I mean, even the years where it was still kind of bad, it was better than this experience. This experience was pretty awful. But I was glad to get one because, you know, I mean, who knows? I mean, one of the reasons I think there was such high demand, at least in the U.S., is that with these tariffs floating around as a possibility, who knows what the Switch is going to cost in 6 months. And, you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get in, and obviously because we're going to talk about it on NPC, poor Brendan, one of my co-hosts on the show, he's going off to Japan, and Japan, Nintendo announced that 2.2 million people had signed up for trying to get a Switch 2 through their online service, which, and they had to say, we're not going to have enough for everybody in Japan. And so now he's going off to Japan, and he's not sure that he'll be able to find one in a retail store. But we have some ideas for ways we might be able to get him one. We're working on our international smuggling ring of electronics. But to put it in perspective, though, that 2.2 million, Brendan, I think you have to listen to NPC to get the number exactly, but I think there were like 2.7 million original Switches sold in the first 30 days of the original Switch, and this is 2.2 million pre-orders in one country. So, you know, the demand is exceedingly high for this thing, and I'm hoping that everything works out and that Walmart actually sends me my order. I got an email, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is Nintendo have proved themselves with the Switch again. You know, after the Wii was massively popular.
Oh yeah,
but I think there was always a sense of this is a kid's toy to some extent. Like it was more of a family console than it was like. Don't get me wrong, you know, they sold boatloads of them.
Yeah.
Then you had the Wii U, which it's the Wii U.
Yeah.
You know, but they've proved themselves again. So yeah, people are excited about this thing. Like, if I was in a position to buy one, I'd be buying one.
Yeah.
You know, I was even on the Amazon page at one point, and I could have pre-ordered it, and I seriously considered it, but I stopped myself. So
yeah, it's wild. They're not on Amazon in the United States, and you can't order one on Nintendo's website either, which I think is kind of odd too, that the pre-orders were just with third-party retailers. But, you know, it was the big typical ones here in the US.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that was a fun little wrap up at the end there.
Yeah.
But yeah, NPC's got all the full story of what's going on.
Yep, indeed. That just came out today too. So check it out when you get a chance, and be sure to leave a review for Ruminate. I'm gonna pitch it because you know what, people need to discover the show, and that's one way that they do it. So, or tell a friend. That's another good way.
Yeah, tell a friend. That's always a nice one. So yeah, please do that, and you know, let us know if you've done it. Like, you know, send it over to me. I like looking at stuff, especially if you're nice to me.
We have a feedback form. You can even do it. You can tell us about it by going to macstories.net/podcasts, where you can leave us a note all about Ruminate, which I appreciate. We read them every week.
We do indeed. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
All right. Talk to you later, Rob.